Hey Stalker, Evan from Stock Music Musician here, and today I want to offer 3 tips for preparing to upgrade to Reason 11. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to like and subscribe to this video so you can get all the latest, greatest Reason 11 news and wonderful tips and tricks to make sure that you can get the most out of Reason 11. So the first thing you even need to ask is, are you going to upgrade? That we can't say yet because Reason 11 comes out tomorrow, and I'll have my full review then. But first you got to decide, do you want to upgrade? My general sense is that if you're using anything less than Reason 10, you probably want to upgrade. If you're using Reason 10, you might not need to. The second thing to consider before you upgrade is which version do you want to upgrade? They have the Reason Intro, which I don't think is what you would upgrade to, but they have the basic version of Reason, which just adds a couple of effects if you're coming from Reason 10, or the deluxe bundle. I forget exactly what it's called. The suite, that's what it's called. And that is loaded with a bunch of rack extensions that have formerly been available for purchase separately, as well as a new unique instrument called the hybrid instrument. It all sounds like it's actually a pretty good deal for the bundle, but if you have a lot of the individual rack extensions, like I do, I don't know that it's necessarily worth it. So you're going to want to go on the page and just look and see which of those two options is a better fit for you, because you can get a lot of value from that suite if you don't have those rack extensions. So the next thing you want to do, the second thing those are kind of 1A and 1B. The next thing you want to do is take this opportunity to make sure that you've got all your songs backed up, because this is kind of like a spring cleaning in the fall. Do you have your songs being backed up either to an external hard drive or to Dropbox, which is where I back up my songs? Just because things happen, usually transitions. Oh, my collar is all wonky. I've never had an issue transitioning between Reason, but I've definitely had issues with computers crashing and OS issues, so it's always good to have a backup, and now is the best time to go ahead and do it. And the third thing you can do before you make the change is to make sure that you've got all of your plugins backed up, your VSTs and your rack extensions, because sometimes those don't necessarily smoothly transition. You got to make sure that all the folders are in the right place, everything like that. And finally, you have to decide whether or not you want to keep your previous version of Reason on your hard drive, on your computer. Because here's the thing, templates in Reason aren't backwards compatible. This is a little confusing, but I think it was in Reason 7 they had a different guitar amp and bass amp than they have now. Maybe it was Reason 6 where they had the Line 6 bass amp and guitar amp. And so figure out if you need to keep certain devices and if you need to keep an older version of Reason on your computer. Generally, previous versions of Reason are forward compatible with the most recent version, but not the other way around. So if you made a template for Reason in Reason 11 and wanted to make it run in Reason 3, that's not going to work. Or even Reason 10, probably. I know the templates from Reason 10 don't work in Reason 9. So there shouldn't be too many reasons that you need to keep a previous version of Reason on your computer. But, for example, if you like the amps from the version before they switched to the current ones, the soft tube amps, then you might want to consider whether or not you need to keep that. The other thing to keep in mind is you probably want to keep your current version of Reason on your computer for at least a week or two in case there's any major bugs with the release that aren't immediately apparent. Sometimes it'll take them a week or two to quash some weird quirky stuff. So probably plan to keep your current version on, which actually, I know I said there were 3 points, but this brings me to my fourth. You might need to clear up hard drive space. It's not a massive program by any means, especially if you already have all of the factory libraries installed. But it'll be a couple gigabytes, maybe 3 or 4. So make sure you have enough space for that. And with that said, be sure to stay tuned for the latest Reason 11 news. Keep her easy.